I remember sitting in a hotel room in Chicago about 10 years ago, staring at a plate of snacks I'd ordered from room service while I waited for a final contract to come through on my laptop. I was 53 at the time. I was still in that corporate sales headspace where I thought I could just outwork any problem. I thought my body was a machine that would just keep running as long as I kept feeding it coffee and adrenaline. But that night, looking at myself in the mirror, I realized I didn't recognize the man looking back. My face looked soft. My eyes looked tired in a way that sleep wouldn't fix. And more than that, there was a quiet, heavy fog in my head that had been there for months. It wasn't just the stress of the deal, it was something deeper. It was the feeling that my internal pilot light had gone out, and I had no idea how to strike the match again. A lot of men my age, we hit 50, and we start signing these silent contracts with ourselves. We tell ourselves that it's normal to feel less like a man. We tell ourselves that the lack of drive, the softening around the middle, and the way the bedroom has become a place of quiet anxiety instead of connection is just part of the tax we pay for getting older. We call it aging, but for many of us, it's actually a slow motion collapse of our internal infrastructure. We're running on empty, and we don't even realize the fuel we're putting into the tank is what's actually gumming up the engine. I lived that collapse. I lived the divorce that came partly because I didn't have the energy to be present. I lived the years of pretending I was fine when I was actually terrified that my best days were behind me. It wasn't until I moved out here to Scottsdale and really started digging into how our systems actually work that I realized I was sabotaging myself with the simplest things. I was ignoring the plumbing. I was ignoring the chemistry. And specifically, I was eating things every single day that I thought were healthy, but were actually acting like a slow-acting poison for my hormones. If you're over 50, circulation isn't just a medical term. It's your lifeblood. It's the difference between feeling capable and feeling like a spectator in your own life. When I look back at that guy in the Chicago hotel room, I see a man who was nutritionally illiterate. I was eating handfuls of snacks to stay awake, never realizing that some of those very snacks were the reason my testosterone was bottoming out. Today, I want to talk to you about what I learned about the raw materials your body needs. I'm going to tell you about the 4 specific things I started putting into my system that changed everything. And more importantly, the one thing I stopped eating entirely that finally allowed my hormones to level out. Let's start with the basics of the engine. Testosterone doesn't just happen. It's a manufactured product. Your body is a factory, and if you don't deliver the raw materials to the loading dock, the assembly line stops. I used to think I needed some magic pill or some high-intensity alpha workout. The truth was much more mechanical. I needed fats, but I needed the right kind of fats. I started eating walnuts every single morning. I'm not talking about a giant bowl. I'm talking about a small handful, maybe 5 or 6. Out here in the desert, you learn pretty quickly that if the irrigation pipes get clogged, the garden dies. It's that simple. Walnuts are like a high-grade cleaner for those pipes. They're packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are the building blocks for the cholesterol your body uses to actually synthesize testosterone. Most men I know are terrified of the word cholesterol, but your hormones are literally made from it. If you cut out the right fats, you're essentially trying to run a car without oil. But walnuts did something else for me that I noticed within about 3 weeks. They contain an amino acid called arginine. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm an ex-sales guy. So I think of arginine as a pressure regulator. It converts into nitric oxide in your blood. Nitric oxide is what tells your blood vessels to relax and open up. When those vessels open, blood flows where it needs to go. For a man over 50, better circulation means better response. It means when you're with someone like my wife Alyssa, you aren't stuck in your own head worrying if the equipment is going to work. You just know it will because the plumbing is clear. I spent years in a state of quiet shame, making excuses for why I wasn't in the mood, when the reality was that my blood was too thick and my vessels were too tight. Walnuts were the first step in loosening that grip. Then there were almonds. I remember talking to a guy I know here in Scottsdale, a former athlete who's now in his late 60s. He looks like he could still go 15 rounds. He told me that the biggest mistake men make is ignoring the minerals that act as the spark plugs. For us, that spark plug is magnesium. If you're low on magnesium, your factory can't produce the final product. It's like having a perfectly good assembly line, but no electricity to turn the lights on. I realized I was magnesium deficient for probably 20 years. The stress of my old career, the constant travel, the late night drinks to wind down, all of that drains your magnesium levels. When I started eating almonds regularly, I wasn't just adding a snack, I was restoring the electrical grid. Almonds help release what they call free testosterone. See, most of the testosterone in your body is bound up. It's there, but it's like a signed contract that hasn't been executed yet. It's useless until it's free. Magnesium helps break those bonds so the hormone can actually go to work on your muscles, your mood, and your drive. I started noticing I was waking up with more clarity. I didn't need that third cup of coffee at 10 a.m. just to stay focused on a spreadsheet. And there was a physical resilience that started coming back. I'd go for my morning walk in the McDowell Mountains, and I wouldn't feel that bone-deep fatigue afterward. I felt like I was finally getting a return on the investment I was making in my body. Plus, almonds have vitamin E, which I think of as the security team for your hormone-producing cells. It protects them from the oxidative stress that comes with just living in a high-pressure world. It's about maintenance. You don't wait for the engine to blow to check the coolant. You maintain it every day. The third thing I added was Brazil nuts, and this is where I had to learn a lesson in discipline. As a sales executive, my motto was always, more is better. If one call is good, 10 calls are better. But with Brazil nuts, that's how you get yourself into trouble. They are incredibly dense with selenium. Think of selenium as a high-performance additive. You only need a tiny bit to change the chemistry of the whole tank. I only eat 2 Brazil nuts a day. That's it, just 2. Selenium is the key to the enzymes that actually trigger the production of testosterone and keep your sperm health in check. For a long time, I didn't think I cared about that anymore. I'm 63. I'm not planning on having more kids. My kids, Ethan and Lila, are grown and doing their own thing. But I realized that reproductive health is just a proxy for overall vitality. If that part of the system is failing, the rest of the system is usually close behind. Selenium keeps the engine firing correctly. But if you overdo it, if you eat them like popcorn, you can actually cause toxicity. I treat them like a daily prescription. 2 nuts every morning, right after I hydrate. It's a small, precise action that tells my body I'm paying attention. And finally, there are pistachios. I used to eat these while watching games on the weekend, but I never took them seriously as a tool for health. Then I started looking into the data on circulation and pelvic health. Pistachios are unique because they help manage cholesterol in a way that keeps your arteries flexible. In our 50s, our arteries start to stiffen. It's like old rubber tubing that's been sitting in the sun too long. It doesn't stretch, it just cracks. Pistachios help keep that tubing supple. There was a study, and I usually don't care much for academic papers, but this one hit home, where they saw a significant improvement in erectile function in men who just added pistachios to their diet for a few weeks. It wasn't because of some magic chemical. It was because their blood flow improved. When the heart and the pelvic region are communicating through clear, flexible pathways, everything works better. I started feeling a level of confidence I hadn't felt since my late 30s. It wasn't the arrogant confidence of a young man. It was the quiet, steady confidence of a man who knows his equipment is well maintained and ready for service. But here is where the story takes a turn, because you can put all the high-grade fuel you want into a system, but if you're also pouring in sand, the engine is still going to seize. For years, my go-to snack was peanuts. I'd buy the big jars of roasted, salted peanuts. I'd eat them by the handful while I was on conference calls or driving between meetings. I thought I was being healthy. I thought I was getting protein. I was wrong. I was killing my progress. First of all, a peanut isn't even a nut. It's a legume. It grows underground, and because of how they're stored, they are often contaminated with these mold toxins called aflatoxins. Now, I'm not saying one peanut is going to hurt you. But when you're over 50, your liver already has enough to do. Your liver is the central processing unit for your hormones. If your liver is busy fighting off mold toxins from the healthy snack you're eating every day, it can't effectively manage your testosterone and estrogen levels. When I stopped eating peanuts and peanut butter, something happened that I didn't expect. The inflammation in my joints started to go down. I used to wake up with this stiff, heavy feeling in my hands and my knees. I thought it was just the old man tax. But peanuts are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. In the right balance, they're fine. But our modern diet is so flooded with omega-6 that it creates a constant state of low-level fire in the body, and testosterone hates fire. Inflammation is the fastest way to shut down hormone production. Your body thinks it's under attack, so it diverts all resources to survival and shuts down the luxury of vitality and performance. I remember talking to Alyssa about it. She's 9 years younger than me, and she's always been more intuitive about health. She'd see me eating those peanuts and say, "Cole, you always look so bloated after you eat those." I'd brush it off. I'm a Texan. I grew up on peanuts, but she was right. I was bloated because I was inflamed. My system was struggling. When I cut them out entirely and replaced them with the walnuts and almonds, the puffiness in my face went away. My pants started fitting better around the waist, not because I was eating fewer calories, but because I wasn't constantly swollen. Then there are cashews. This was a hard one because I love cashews. But cashews, like peanuts, are very high in those omega-6 fats, and they are almost always processed in seed oils that add even more inflammation to the mix. For a man trying to rebuild himself after 50, cashews are a trap. They're delicious, they're easy to overeat, and they quietly tilt your hormonal balance toward estrogen and away from testosterone. I noticed that when I was heavy on the cashews, my mood was more erratic. I was more prone to that quiet irritability that a lot of us get. That grumpy old man syndrome that's actually just a symptom of low testosterone and high cortisol. I decided to run an experiment on myself about 2 years ago. I cut out the peanuts and cashews completely for 90 days. I kept everything else the same. I still lived in Scottsdale. I still did my resistance training. I still walked, but I stayed strictly with the big four: walnuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, and pistachios. The change wasn't overnight. It was gradual. It was like a slow sunrise. About 6 weeks in, I realized I was waking up before my alarm. And I wasn't waking up with that feeling of dread, wondering how I was going to push through the day. I was waking up feeling present. I'd go into the kitchen, drink my water, and look out at the desert, and I felt a sense of steady, quiet power. My relationship with Alyssa changed too. When you're struggling with your hormones, you tend to pull away. You avoid the physical touch because you're afraid of where it might lead and the disappointment that might follow. You become a master of the headache or the "I'm just really tired from the office" excuse. I'd been doing that for years without even realizing it. But as my circulation improved and my testosterone started to recover, that fear went away. I wasn't performing anymore. I was just being a man who was healthy enough to enjoy his wife. We started having conversations that were more honest because I wasn't hiding behind the shame of my own physical inconsistency. Most men wait too long to deal with this. We wait until the engine has already smoked out on the side of the highway. I waited until my first marriage had collapsed and I was staring at a version of myself I didn't like. You don't have to wait for a crisis to start maintaining the infrastructure. If you're listening to this and you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to look at what you're putting in your mouth as a business decision. Are you investing in the company or are you liquidating the assets? Those peanuts in the pantry, they're a bad investment. Those cashews, they're a liability. But a handful of walnuts, that's an investment in your circulation. 2 Brazil nuts, that's an investment in your core chemistry. I'm 63 years old now. I'm not 20. I don't want to be 20. But I feel more capable today than I did at 45. I have more endurance, more focus, and a much better connection with the people I love. It didn't come from a doctor's office or a bottle of expensive supplements. It came from realizing that my body is a system that responds to the materials I give it. I want you to think about the last time you felt truly confident. Not the loud, bragging kind of confidence, but the quiet kind. The kind where you know you can handle whatever comes your way. That confidence usually starts in the body. When the body starts to respond again, when the morning energy comes back, when the physical drive returns, the mind follows. What starts in the body usually ends in the head. If you've been ignoring things, if you've been telling yourself that the fatigue and the lack of drive are just your new normal, I'm telling you they don't have to be. You aren't broken. You've just been ignoring the wrong things. You've been running the wrong fuel through a high-performance engine. Start small. Go to the store today. Get the walnuts, get the almonds, get the Brazil nuts, get the pistachios. And for the love of God, throw the peanuts in the trash. Give it 30 days. Pay attention to how your joints feel. Pay attention to how you feel when you wake up. Pay attention to how you feel when you're standing in the kitchen with your wife in the evening. This isn't about being perfect. My life isn't perfect. I still have bad days. I still get stressed. But I'm not fighting my own biology anymore. I'm working with it. And out here in the quiet of the Arizona morning, that makes all the difference. You aren't the only man dealing with this. Every guy you know is struggling with some version of this, but most of them are too proud or too tired to talk about it. I decided a long time ago that I was done being proud and I was done being tired. I wanted the truth. And the truth is that your hormones don't have to die just because you've had 50 birthdays. They just need a different kind of care. I think about my son Ethan sometimes. He's 31. He's at that age where he still thinks he's invincible. I try to talk to him about these things, but he isn't ready to hear it yet. He still has the luxury of a young man's chemistry, but we don't. We have to be more tactical. We have to be smarter. We have to be the kind of men who understand that our strength is something we have to cultivate every single day. When I talk to men who are struggling, the first thing they want to know is, how long does it take? They want a quick fix. They want a strategy they can implement and then forget about. I tell them it's not a strategy, it's a maintenance schedule. You don't fix an engine and then never change the oil again. You change the oil because you want the engine to keep running. For me, the maintenance schedule is simple. It's the walk, it's the hydration, and it's the nuts. It's the small, repetitive actions that build a foundation of health. When that foundation is solid, everything else gets easier. The weight comes off easier. The muscles stay firm easier. The sleep is deeper. And the relationship, the most important part of my life, thrives because I'm actually present in it. I stopped eating those peanuts because I realized they were part of an old version of me, a version of me that was reactive, tired, and disconnected. I chose the version of me that eats walnuts and almonds because that man is proactive, energized, and engaged. It seems like such a small thing, right? A different snack. But over a year, over 5 years, over a decade, those small things determine who you are. I'm 63 and I'm just getting started on this next chapter. Alyssa and I have plans. We want to travel. We want to be active. We want to enjoy this life we've built here. I can't do any of that if I'm falling apart from the inside out. I can't be the man she deserves if I'm running on a hormone profile that's crashing. So take a look at your pantry. Take a look at what you're grabbing when you're hungry at 3 p.m. Is it moving you toward the man you want to be, or is it dragging you back to the man you're tired of being? You have the power to change the chemistry of your body. It doesn't take a miracle. It just takes a little bit of honesty and the right raw materials. I'm glad you're here with me. It's not an easy path to walk alone, and you don't have to. We're all trying to figure out how to do this after 50 thing with some dignity and some strength. I've found that the more I share what I've learned, the more I realize we're all looking for the same thing, to feel like ourselves again. Think about what we've talked about today. Don't just listen to it and move on. Do something with it. Change one thing. Start with the walnuts. See how you feel. Because once you start seeing the results, once your body starts responding again, you won't want to go back. You'll realize that the old man you thought you were becoming was just a guy who was missing a few key components. I'm going to keep digging into this. I'm going to keep looking for the things that work and calling out the things that don't. Because at this stage of the game, we don't have time to waste on things that don't move the needle. We need results. We need vitality. And we need to know that our best days aren't something we look at in the rearview mirror. They're something we're driving toward right now. I'll be here waking up early in Scottsdale, doing the work. I hope you'll be doing it with me. There's a lot more to talk about. Everything from how we sleep to how we handle the pressure that never seems to go away. But for today, just focus on the fuel, focus on the plumbing, and pay attention to how much better life gets when you stop sabotaging your own engine. Take care of yourself. You've earned the right to feel strong. You've earned the right to be confident. And you've definitely earned the right to have a body that works as hard as you do. It's all within reach. Just start with the right materials. I'll talk to you soon.